Why are you anti-nuke and why are you pro-nuke? I don't like getting shots, but dying from a bacterial infection means I'm going to get an injection, especially since it's not really an injection, it's a lavage because they cut open my face and drained it. Sometimes we do what we don't want to do because we don't have a real choice, but let's talk about actual rationalizations for nuclear and non-nuclear power. To be blunt, unless you want to wire up cabling from the dark to the bright side, or light to dark side, do your own Star Wars joke, side of the Earth, and also from the North and South pole ends, so that during winter and during summer you can share power back and forth because it's winter in Portland, but it's summer in Australia. Unless we're going to do that, solar power requires storage batteries. Yes, if you could all get together and shut up for a few minutes and actually agree that, yes, we'd like to share electrical power, we could do this on solar. And if you want to, you could do this with wind and water, storage as well. But unless we get battery pack technology improved bizarrely well, it is not improved. The energy storage capacity for fuel, any fuel, is always better. Because it just frickin' is, by bizarre factor. I'll have it listed in the top line in the video. But right now we're going to talk about nuclear versus other. Why are you anti-nuke? A discourse on ignorant activism. If nuclear power is going to die, let it die from truth and facts, not lies and propaganda. Craig gives a powerful address to those considered themselves anti-nuclear. Or is anti-nuclear. Nuclear. The trouble with the trouble with Craig here, the Craiginator, below me man, is he's too goddamn rational. He's like me, he doesn't like nuclear power. And it's not a necessary evil. It's just that the alternatives people keep coming up with are shit. The only ones that really work well are just waste less energy, and maybe we shouldn't breed ourselves into oblivion. But let's go on. With 450 nuke plants in operation in the world at a particular time and date stamp I picked arbitrarily, it's the closest I could find to today, 50 are under construction. The demand for uranium is mainly determined by nuclear power, not bombs. It's just all there is to it. The main thing that drove nuclear power existing wasn't an energy crisis, it was making bombs. The mentality for the bomb-making part of the industry is actually pretty much gone because it's not profitable, and the people who mine the stuff and turn it into uranium don't need to enrich it as much to make it for power plants because you have to go from 5% uranium enrichment of a particular variety of uranium mix to 90. It's bizarrely much more expensive to do that. So much so that you go from $1,000 per kilogram for uranium, fuel grade, to $15 million per kilogram to make bomb-grade uranium per kilogram. No shit. And nukes are expensive. But let's talk about poundage. No jokes. Uranium is 100 times more common than silver in the ground. 0.7% of natural uranium is actually the relatively rare uranium-235 that you can use to make an enriched, fissionable, critical mass material. But if you only need 5% of it to be for running a power plant, that also means that it's only just mildly radioactive compared to weapons-grade shit. Weapons-grade shit can actually be technically safe to hold depending on how many ounces you have. The heavier the mass, the more radioactive it can become. Not just because there's more of it, but because it starts reacting. It actually starts to get to where it starts heating up and producing more neutron releases or neutron reactions. But again, 15 million's pretty freaking... Anyway, but anyway, here we go. Uranium makes up 5 to 10% of the price of electricity generated in several countries. The United States is the one I'm using for an example. At 0.7% natural uranium, you only have to enrich it or purify it or refine it 10 to 1 to get to the point that you can use it to power a power plant. You have to refine it over and over again, orders of magnitude, to make a bomb. But once you've made bomb-grade material, You can just mix it with the crap grade material and make a power plant. Obviously, financial reasons would mean that we need to go the plowshare route. We turn it from a bomb, a weapon, into a plowshare. We make it do some work for us. Because a nuke sitting in a silo is doing nothing for you. It should be powering you being able to play your video games. Call of Duty is more important than blowing up Russia when they don't want to blow up anybody anymore at all, really. They don't want to be involved with that. And everyone figured out no one wanted to be in a nuclear war. And after Chernobyl happened, I can guarantee you nobody in Russia wanted to do a nuclear war for shit. Energy per kilogram. Holy crap. 100,000 million. 24 million kilowatt hours just from 5% enriched. And if it's 90% enriched weapons grade, it's about the same rate. It just has a much more difficult time being safe, so there's no point in enriching it again. It doesn't add to it. Yes, you could take 5% enriched nuclear fuel for a power plant and make a bomb out of it. It's literally slightly larger than a bus, and it will blow up badly, but yes, you can technically make it go boom. No, nuclear power plants cannot explode like atom bombs. If you believe that or have ever repeated that, you're a fucking liar. How many kilowatt hours do you get out of coal or oil? Instead of 24 million kilowatt hours, you get 12 kilowatt hours. Or 8. So, the bizarrely high energy density of this shit. Okay, how hard is it to get? It's $1,000 per kilogram. Coal is really cheap per kilogram. Coal mining and burning produces mercury in the air. And we already know what happens with oil. It's a very efficient fuel for your cars and everything. But it produces greenhouse gases. Now, how much for? Well, we're talking about cost here. I'm appealing to all the capitalists. Raw mined ore in 2007 was $300 per kilogram maximum. 2016 it went down to $41 per kilogram. And it can be made or remade from weapons grade uranium that normally would be $15 million per kilogram. You just chop it up and use it for the 5% or whatever enrichment you need after a certain point with the other material, or you can mix it with bulk material. You can also use it with depleted uranium, apparently, depending on if you want in. Well, we'll get to the recycling. Chemical processing of spent fuel material to recover every bit of remaining product that could be put back through the system in a new fuel assembly is technically feasible and is probably a very good idea, but it's not permitted in the United States by law. Of course. Depleted uranium can be converted to a chemically stable uranium oxide compounds. That's nice. Such as an oxide, dioxide, all similar to the chemical form of natural uranium found, and then can be treated the same way and has about as much danger to it because it literally is a mineral you just mine and then purify. You can mix it with bulk material, and if you want to, if you can get what's called a clean mine, where it literally has been wiped clean to the point on a microscopic level, and just pack it with nothing but the depleted uranium in this state, because, well, it has a 1,000-year lifespan, a half-life, which means it takes a very long time for it to actually emit any neutrons. Once it's in this state, it also self-absorbs almost all of it. Most of the radiation you get off of it is exposed on the outer surface. As long as you dilute it down to the point that it cannot self-initiate and pack it tightly, it will not form a nuclear pile, and it will just sit there, emitting almost exclusively from the outside surface into stone. So why don't we just put them back in the uranium mines? Mining is extremely dangerous, and packing this shit in a mine is also very dangerous because about half the mines are in areas that are tectonically unstable. Well, anyway, what else? Disposing it of as low-level radioactive waste at that point is acceptable. The Department of Energy has more than 700 metric tons of this crap, estimated cost of $428 million to store it and get rid of it. Total, if somebody would stop being an NIMBY and let them put it into some place that would be more stable than an unstable mine on a a tectonic plate fault like in California. Dumbasses. Hey, you know that place where we used to have NORAD base that's hyper stable? Oh, they don't want to give that up. It's always the way it is, isn't it? Depleted uranium hexafluoride, DUF-6, is typically stored in 14-ton cylinders right near the enrichment facility that it came from, as part of their recycling back to storing it somewhere above ground in a cask. See also a place not too far away from here. Cost factoring back into back-end steps to safely manage, prepare, and dispose of such material. It's still highly radioactive spent reactor fuel until you process it at least into these oxide forms and mix it with some bulk material to absorb. See also all my annoyances. What else could you do with it? Well, it's not financially intelligent unless you build a big enough facility, but you can just take these actinides and just burn them back off. The reason these materials are considered spent nuclear fuel is they won't fission anymore on their own. If, however, you light them with a nuclear match, just like you do with a hydrogen bomb, detonating hydrogen, which never splits when you pack it tight unless it's a star, you can actually get the stuff to keep fissioning down to something that isn't as dangerous. It takes a bizarrely long period of time to do it, to get rid of it, and produces a fuck ton of energy, but just not as much of a fuck ton of energy. Maybe half a fuck ton. It puts out about a tenth the energy. So instead of 24 million kilowatts per kilogram, it puts out about, maybe, let's say 2. That's not too bad, is it? And it stops being radioactive after a while because you turn it into stuff that won't be radioactive anymore. And you can keep filtering it, but you have to keep maintaining it. You end up with something that is unfortunately going to have to sit there for a while. Primordial elements. These are the elements that were formed at the birth of the universe and or elements that formed from the first stars collapsing and exploding. Include 14 billion year half-life, very weakly radioactive thorium. It's found on all continents, in all rocks and soils at about 6 parts per million. You're more likely to get some other nasty stuff. 3 times as common as uraniums, all of them. And most of the deposits are in India and the United States. It used to cost $300 per kilogram in 1995. Now it costs about $70 per kilogram. That's a lot cheaper than $1,000 per kilogram for uranium. And as a byproduct of rare earth mining for making those magnets and fidget spinner materials. It's a waste material. We get it when we mine shit to make capacitors work and make that screen you're using right now to swipe left on me or right, depending on your opinion or orientation, or whether I'm upside down or sideways. You see, it decays very slowly because it has a long half-life, and it only emits one kind of radiation because it doesn't want to be radioactive or even go kaboom. Alpha radiation. It can't go through human skin. In fact, it can be stopped by a sheet of paper in some cases, which means it's almost impossible to get sick from it unless you ingest it. Plutonium and uranium, on the other hand, not even going to go there. 2.5% thorium level monzonite is found in placer deposits and is the only mineral from which it is currently mined. It's also found in minerals thorite and thorium oxide-based thorianate at 12%, but that's much rarer. Thorium-232, which is very similar to uranium-230 whatever in mass, is several hundred times more available than uranium-235. You just have to mill it out. And even if it's raw form, it's 3 times more available. It's in low demand. Working mines don't use it that much. World production of it was around 2,000 tons last year. And you could run 100 years worth of it out of one deposit near Wyoming. It mostly contains no fissile isotopes, so it can be stored safely before you use it. See also Bill Gates' traveling wave reactor that'll also burn off radioactive material just like this, along with thorium. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.